Okay, we're going to cover a few different topics in step 4. We're going to cover how you're going to receive feedback from the end user and what to do with that when you get it. And we're also going to cover um, how I want your prototypes to be made, how you will be handling that, because you will not make a physical prototype, you will make a prototype within the 123D design software that will either be selected to be printed or it may not be. It'll just all depend on how well um, others, including myself, view your product and whether or not we feel we should move forward with making it. Now, your solutions, as described in the previous step, had to be fully detailed. No stone left unturned. Everything about it was understandable. Everything you were going to do to meet my needs was addressed. If that did not occur, when you submitted them to me, then you will be getting feedback from me via, through Canvas in the comment section. So you'll want to look for that and you'll want to make corrections to your solutions, and then you'll have to resubmit those solutions before you will ever be able to move on into the prototyping stage. So make sure that you look for my questions and make sure that you have the knowledge necessary to answer any question. Make sure that if changes are required that you make those changes before ever resubmitting them. If you put it to where you're only correcting one solution at a time and I have to go back and keep rethinking and regrading and looking back over your work, just like in the real world, the odds are I would probably just go with another designer at some point and you'd be out of job. In this situation, I may just go ahead and, freeze your points at the lower score and say, hey, move on, because, obviously you're not willing to put in the effort and we don't want that to occur. So, and like this slide says, if you look down here on the right side and near the bottom, maybe I'll see something in both of your solutions that I really like and ask you to combine them to make a new one. If that's true and both solutions are fully detailed, then that will not hurt your score. It'll just be something that I want to have done. And since you're working for me, that's, just what'll have to happen. Once you get the okay, and you'll get something in your feedback that says, go ahead and move to the prototyping stage and for what solution, then you'll be making a prototype in the 123D design. A prototype, is a physical working model. The software will substitute for that of the solution chosen by me. And, what does it do? How is it built? In this, the prototype is something that you can create and be handed into me for further examination. Your 123DDX, file, it will be just that. I can measure it in there. I can check for errors. I can look for things that may or may not print properly. So, that will be your physical prototype. It is testable against my wants and needs, and, hopefully it will be identical to your solution. Now, that's how I'll be judging your prototype. If I said, hey, make solution A, go out there and design it in 123D, and then you get into 123D design and your prototype doesn't match your solution, there's a problem. So, at that point, you'll be asked to redo it. Work smart, people. Don't work hard. If you have a problem developing something when you're working in the 123D design, do the research. Look for tutorials online or ask me questions, maybe or maybe not. I'm not an expert at 123D, So I may not be able to help you with a specific type of design process that you're trying to recreate, but I'd be more than willing to try to point you in the right direction. Like I said before, I will be testing your prototypes. With that in mind, one final thing, when you design in 123D, I want you to design your objects to scale. And I don't mean the 1:6 scale, so let me reiterate. I want you to design them for the real world, for what a human would use. You know, if a standard chair is 16 inches from the floor to the top of the seat, or an end table falls inwards, you know, between 22 and 30 inches high, so that it's at the right height for your arm to, you know, reach over and grab something off of should you be sitting on a couch. That's what I'm looking for. Don't design it in the 1:6 scale, because we can do the scaling within the printer prior to printing it. So design it as if you were, you know, building it for a real person. If you design a kitchen cupboard, you know, and that kitchen cupboard's 6 feet tall and 4 feet wide and 18 inches deep, then draw it at that size. You know, that's a big thing. And make sure parts that you need for that cupboard, example, if you have a drawer that goes into it, the drawer will need to be on a separate file. Printer will not work well at printing multiple objects from the same file. It, you know, would, however, print multiple objects at the same time if individual files were uploaded. So don't just draw it all stuck together and hope that it'll somehow print the drawer and that drawer will pop out after it's done printing. It just won't work that way. So if you have questions, remember, you've got my email. Ask them. You know, don't make yourself more work than is necessary. This will take some time. It will take some effort on your part. But, you know, if you work smart instead of hard, if you plan, you know, if you organize your time, you should be successful. And I look forward to, you know, seeing your objects and printing some of them out. Thanks for watching, and remember to contact me should you have any questions.